Ladies and gentlemen, for your entertainment tonight, we have the one, the incredible, the Miss Bushwick, the Miss Eurovision, the one, the only, the indomitable Miss Gavina Mevius, straight to you live from upstate New York. Give her a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
And presenting tonight, clocking in at a wonderful 5'10", I guess, Miss Laredo, who I'm happy to call the Tejano, who is my hermano. It is Louie Sarandon. Give her a round of applause. She's looking beautiful tonight.
Hey, Gavin.
Hey, Louie. How you doing?
I am doing so grand. I have to say that I'm very excited that it's just the classique girls tonight.
Yeah, we're speeding towards our 100th episode, and I think for our next 4, I think it's just going to be us. So please enjoy the dulcet tones of Louie Rendon and Gavin Mevius in your ears.
Yes. I do have to say our last episode was such a banger.
Oh my God.
In no small part because we had an amazing guest in Trana Wintour who brought us the wonderful world of Madonna, the wonderfully psychotic world of Madonna. And I mean, speechless. Like when she reached out to us to like be on the show, was, gushing about the show. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I'm like, are we best friends?
Yeah. As like an actual celebrity? Like what?
Yeah. Thank you, Trina. Thank you to our listeners who wrote in about the show. A friend texted me. He's like, you and Trina have the same voice. It was a little confusing. And I was like, okay, work. Love that for me. Hi, everyone. This is The Mixed Reviews.
We're a film podcast where we take a film subject such as an actor, director, or a mini genre, and we give you a full history, and then we break it down into things that we liked, and we break it into things that we don't like. Consider it, like a winner and a first runner-up.
Wow. But in this case, though, if the winner cannot fulfill her duties, she does not get replaced by the loser.
No, not at all.
Gavin, do you have your tape on? Are you tucked?
I am tucked. I'm wearing my sash. I'm ready.
Yes.
I have my flowers.
Oh, she's crowning, honey. Okay, I need to powder my face, powder my nose, get my breasticles in, prepare for the question and answer portion of the evening. We had a question and answer portion for you all out there in the lovely audience to vote on your favorite Madonna movie, and the results are in. Dick Tracy came in at last place in 14%. Evita, which was both Gavin and Trana's pick, came in at third place with 16%. Desperately Seeking Susan came in with first runner-up with 25%. And my pick, A League of Their Own, 45%. Oh, what it feels to be like a winner. Just imagine me prancing around the stage, crown, sash, scepter. And what's a good Madonna song to do this to? Like a Prayer?
Yes.
That sounds like fun.
Because truly, you winning this pageant, it is like a mystery.
oh, wow, Gavin. This show is canceled. We're not making it to 100. I'm so sorry. You know what? Diamonds are a girl's best friend, and I'm going to throw them at you. But they hurt, and you don't like it.
Nothing can hurt me because, baby, I'm a material girl.
Wow. Wow. We're getting off to a really great start.
We truly are.
We don't know how to behave now that it's just the two of us.
I've missed this, Louie.
I've missed this.
But
I gotta say, Gavin, you are also looking very ready for the pageant, girl. The
thank
hair
you.
looks very correct tonight.
This took some styling.
Yes.
Let me tell you, I went through 4 different hairstyles before
I gotta say,
settled
Gavin,
on
this
one.
accent work is...
Oh, I thank you.
My God. Dumplin', is that you?
Sure is.
That's what I've always said about Gavin. He's my little dumpling. You're my... And I would be what? Well, I am Alyssa Edwards, actually.
Yeah,
I'm just Alyssa Edwards.
That's actually very true.
The dancing diva of Texas.
Let's hear you do a tongue pop.
Weirdly, I can only do tongue pops if I'm drinking.
Oh, I can't do them at all, so just don't have the
like,
talent that she possesses.
I take a sip of my cocktail, and then, like, I'm magically given the ability to just, like, but, like, really good, you know?
I love this cocktail.
I love this drink.
I love this drink.
I am your Miss Mandarin.
Berry acai.
Okay, we're being really silly billies right now. Gavin, let's just like cut to the chase, babe. Like what do we have on plan? What's the theme? What is the category?
Today we're doing a mini genre breakdown. We haven't done one in a while.
Yes.
We haven't done one since our road movies episode. And so we thought, what could be more fun as we enter pageant season to do an episode about pageant movies?
I have to say that this idea has long been stewing because our Mixed Reviews guest, Samantha Stallard, and our good friend, she told me, like, eons ago, like episode 1, she was like, oh my god, pageant movies, like that would be such a good episode. And I was like, oh my god, you're so right. And here we are on like episode 98, 6,
7,
what, literally 90 now.
Well, you are failing the interview portion.
I know. She didn't prepare, folks. But my talent is sickening. But Sam, this is for you, babe. We finally did the work to bring Page Pod a la Mixed Reviews to the listeners. So I'm really excited. Gavin, do you remember what your first introduction to pageants in general was?
Well, my mother has always really enjoyed the like televised, the like Miss America, Miss USA. So I must have seen a bunch of them as a child. But I've been upstate home and visiting my family, and I was talking to my sister Nicole, and she actually informed me that she was in a pageant when she was 3 years old. That
my God.
Yeah, my mother put her in a pageant. She did not win. She does not have any memories of it other than sleeping across 3 chairs. And
she was wasted. Okay, she was wasted. Fine.
Well, you can only have so much go-go juice before you're down for the count.
Hello.
Sugar crash. But she also did do and I'm not trying to tell tales out of school, I don't want to tell her story, but she did the Junior Miss pageant when she was a junior in high school, which is actually a scholarship pageant. I know everybody says they're about scholarships, but this one was in fact, and the only defining memory I really have of that, and I asked her, I was like, how many girls was it? She's like 30. And I was like, and how many times did we hear On My Own during the talent portion?
Oh, God.
And she said at least 5. And one of the girls that sang On My Own won. So,
well, it's a popular song. There's a reason. They were like, we know the formula, babe. We're going to win, hun. There was a while when I was in high school that the Miss Texas pageant was held in Laredo. And I remember going to it once, I believe, at least Miss Teen Texas, one of those things. So I've seen one live. The girlies looked amazing. A cousin of mine is dating the current Miss Laredo, I think.
Ooh. So you're like adjacent to royalty, is what you're saying.
I'm basically Mr. Laredo.
Yeah, you're like the Duke of Laredo, is that?
Right. I've absconded the throne. But yeah, like, I guess similar to you, like there was a time, I would say, in the like 80s realm of the world where just like when it was on TV, it was so magical, mystical, like everyone was beautiful. Everyone was talented. It was like...
I wonder, too, if it was the fact that, and for the kids in the audience, for those who are not aged gentlemen that we are, there only used to be 3 channels. So...
Right.
And so, like, when you put a pageant on, like, NBC, CBS, ABC, that's wiping out 1/3 of your television choices for the night. And so you watched.
Yeah. And it was, like, seeing these women with, like, enormous hair, the most, like classically beautiful bodies, but then they were also just like I want to be a doctor one day, and I'm helping out the youth and like, it was insanity. And then the talent portion, I was like, are you telling me these bitches have it all? What? It was insane. And even to even think like the logistics of like, oh my God, yeah, they had to win Miss San Antonio to get to Miss Texas, then to go to nationals where she is now competing against. Like, it was basically gay baseball, you know, like trading cards. Like, this is Pokemon, you know, like it's these women are collectibles, which I guess gets into, and we're gonna get into it in our rewind, controversies.
Yes, absolutely.
And maybe why pageants aren't so great. But maybe why they're also good. Who knows? We are but two men who happen to enjoy a good page.
Absolutely.
And a good page movie. So, with that being said, Gavin, why don't we head over to the rewind? Pageants. I was like, where shall I begin? And I thought, well, like, when was the first pageant ever held? Turns out, guys, pageants have been around forever. Literally way back, throwing it to ancient Greece. In 1194, we can point to the Judgment of Paris, when literally Hera, Aphrodite, and Athena in Greek mythology were, like, basically fighting over who's the hottest. And they basically snatched up Paris, who was this little goat herder, and they were like, hi, yeah, who's the hottest? We're like almighty goddesses. Pick one. And he was like, okay, this sounds really sus. They basically all tried to bribe him, and in the end he chose Aphrodite in exchange for Helen of Troy, and whoopsie doopsie, he started the Trojan War.
Just a little thing.
Yeah, just a little thing. So,
oh, by the way, that's all accurate history. That is 100%
yes,
what happened.
That's real. I was gonna say though, so two things, like, clearly, like, a man wrote this. Like, this is a man writing like this ancient.
You
history.
You can say his name. It's Homer.
Going ahead a little time, a bit in history. Ancient festivals in Europe known as May Day, the May Day festivals. And we're talking about like Midsommar shit, okay? We're talking about the Maypole. We're talking about the May Queen. These were like contests where to celebrate the beginning of summer, the arrival of summer. This is stuff that still happens today across Europe and other British Commonwealths. I think the oldest one literally is in British Columbia in Canada. It's been going on for over 100 years. And these like queens kind of do what all small local beauty pageant queens do. They ride in parades, they walk around looking cute, they're crowned with flowers. That's cute.
It's basically what I do every day.
Yes.
It's my daily existence. I just can't I can't step outside without somebody wanting to put a crown of flowers on my head and ask me to parade around. It's Brooklyn.
God, Brooklyn is just so full of paraders. In the 1850s, P.T. Barnum held the first pageant in the United States. That's correct. The P.T. Barnum of circus fame.
When he wasn't busy exploiting his workers, he was busy exploiting women.
Right. He said, how can I exploit anybody for money? What's going on there? Let's talk about that. He basically was like, pay 10 cents and you can come inside this circus and like judge women. Except because it was the Victorian era, quote unquote, respectable women were like, no, we're not going to fucking participate in this. So it was hard for him to actually get participants in his pageants. Getting into the 1900s, though, picture contests became a way for respectable girls to enter a beauty pageants. And so cities would have like thousands and thousands of women. I mean, so like all of this to get to, selfies have always been fucking cool. Take that motherfucking selfie if you want, okay? It wasn't until the early 20th century that beach resorts began holding beauty pageants as entertainment for, the growing middle class. This happened in the US, but it also happened in England. It's like you're in Atlantic City and, you want to have a fun summertime. And they basically had like callers being like, oh, you're a hot, pretty girl, come. And by this time, it was more acceptable for women to be literally judged on how beautiful they were and, quote, their charm. The first Miss America pageant was held in 1921. It was in Atlantic City. And this is the beginning of the modern pageant. All pageants that we think of today, from, those old school ones in the 20s and 30s to literally the ballroom scene now, they're all emulating some style of format that encapsulates that whole very American, Southern tradition of just women being put on display for beauty, athleticism, charm, etc., etc. Because of newsreels, and this is where Hollywood gets involved, these contests are blasted around the world. Hollywood films and newsreels spread the ideas to different countries, and by the 50s, there were lots of beauty contests around the world, especially as, nationalism was rising. A lot of old colonies were falling apart, or, the British were getting the fuck out. And so, the idea of these beauty pageants really became this global thing. And in the 1970s, the women's liberation movement, they really were protesting. They wanted more rights for women. They thought looking at the pageant was we're being judged for what we look like, and that's fucking bullshit. And it's because of them, really, that exploded pageants all over the world on the map. Bad press is still press. And, when the pageants, even though there was this backlash, bubbling from the women's liberation movement, it's because of them in a certain sense that they were able to be oh, now we have an enemy. Now we have someone to fight against. And so literally in 1970 at Miss World, the women's liberation movement protested there. They threw shit on stage. This is all redone in a 2020 movie called Misbehavior. At the end of the movie, they're oh, look at all these newspapers that are covering us. Amazing.
Yeah. And
that's just a fact, and it wasn't just oh, this one little, local event. It was Mr. International, Mr. Worldwide, it was these women from around the world. This is also around the same time there was a pageant contestant in Miss USA who was I am not wearing a bathing suit in public. And she said, honeys, I'm out of here. And she said, I'm going to start my own foundation and my own page. And she sure the fuck did. So she started Miss USA and then later Miss Universe to compete with Miss World. And that's just kind of a primer on pageants. Obviously, as time, in the 70s, there are just so many remixes of, taking the culture of pageants. Obviously, in the 80s, 90s, you get ballroom, where drag and queer people are emulating these royal, beautiful women and want to be like them,
Can I talk real quick just about the big four international pageants? There are many pageants, beauty pageants, scholarship pageants that occur across the globe, but the big four are the ones that everybody seems to most want to compete in. The first one being Miss World, which was founded in 1951 in London, England, and that followed 1 year later by Miss Universe, which was founded in New York City in 1952, Miss International in 1960, which was founded in Tokyo, and 2001's Miss Earth, which was founded in Quezon City in the Philippines. And what's interesting about these is you can sort of chart the changing tastes of society based on what they do. And each international pageant actually has their own bikini regulation. In 2015, Miss World dropped the beach fashion segment, so there is no swimsuit category for them. Miss Universe, from the year it was founded, 1952, bikinis were banned. And then in 1997, allowed women to wear bikinis. In 64, Miss International made bikinis mandatory.
Oh, good.
And then in 2017, Miss Earth pageant changed their bathing suit category into the beauty of form and figure, in which they hide the faces of their contestants so the judges will focus only on the bodies. Yeah. And so it's...
Well...
yeah.
Well... I
I object, Your Honor.
I object, Your Honor. I would say, is there an opposite where like my body is covered? It's just my face.
It's just my face.
Yeah,
that's my moneymaker.
My face is banging. The rest, suspicious. I don't know, Gavin. Like it feels like I grew up in the South. We had a pageant. I mean, you talked about the pageant your sister was in. I definitely grew up in a town where there was lots of pageants. We had Miss Pocahontas pageant, which is very bizarre because not really known for Native Americans in Laredo.
That sounds très problématique.
And that was created in response to the Miss Martha Washington pageant, which was for the rich people. And Miss Pocahontas was like also rich people, but like I guess not old money, whatever.
I've heard of the Miss Martha Washington pageant, so that is also très problématique.
It is. There's a documentary, I believe, on PBS.
Yes.
It's called Los Marthas, I believe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, which I guess is like kind of a good like segue into Hollywood and mainstream media's obsession with pageants and putting them on display for us to consume them. The earliest movie that I watched was something that you recommended, The Beauty Jungle in 1964. Kooky booky movie, kind of to what you were saying, like, as you move through time watching these movies, you see the changes in culture and like how the problems that are faced both like culturally, morally, with these movies. In this movie, literally there's a guy who just like he's a journalist, which is so fun. He just like snatches a woman off of like a boardwalk and is like, fuck your fiance, fuck your job. I think you're the most gorgeous creature on the planet. And I want you to win money for me by competing in pageants. And she's like, don't make me sing. Don't make me sing. And literally, while I was watching this movie, all I could think in my head was, gaslighter, denier. Because he's like, don't you see that I only want you if you want me? And she's like, well, I said you can fuck me, whatever. And he's like, no, that's not how it goes. I'm like, you are sad, boy. It's just so bizarre to think. I mean, a lot of these contests are like run by men. These movies clearly are made by men, and so it's very just like
it is almost a bit back and forth because, as you're saying, you know, most of these behind the scenes are male driven, and yet most of these films are about the problems of men being involved. The earliest pageant film I heard of, but I could not find because it's considered a lost film, is The American Venus from 1926, which is a silent comedy. And unfortunately, like I said, I couldn't find it, but I did find a 1930s early sound film called Miss Europe, also known as Beauty Prize, which starred Louise Brooks, who's a very famous silent film actress. This was actually one of the first films they made with her for sound. However, she's dubbed throughout the entire thing. But it is a movie where like she enters a beauty world and her boyfriend doesn't want her to, and eventually she becomes a movie star and he kills her. So it is a lot about the problems of men with, you know, what happens when they see this both liberation but also sexualization of the female body,
right.
And how it can drive them to become horrible monsters.
Right. It's really, because even in this, like, you know, in The Beauty Jungle, she gets her photo taken with her bathing suit. It's like a two-piece.
Yeah.
And fucking everyone loses it.
Her father throws her out.
Disgusting, degrading.
I wouldn't go that far, Ed.
Well, I would. Where's this kind of thing finish up?
Nobody else thought it was...
Don't you tell me what people thought. I know what I thought at the office all day. Snickers, dirty remarks.
Did he dig a hole in the sand, or were you up on something?
Go to your room, Elaine. This isn't suitable for your ears.
You always look on the black side of things, Ed.
Because I know this world, that's why. I know the filthy things that go on.
It's just a picture, Dad.
Just a picture. Just a picture. That's how it all starts. Dirty pictures. Girls showing everything they've got.
Oh, Ed.
Well, I'm not having it in my family. I'm not having this kind of thing in my house.
And her, like, fiancé is like, I don't wish to talk about it. And she's like, well, I look stunning. I live, laugh, love. I don't give a fuck. Unfortunately, like the movie, you know, it's hardly progressive, I would say.
Oh, very much not. But I think for its time, it was probably much more progressive. I mean, I don't know if it thought itself as it was, but I think there's enough subversiveness in it. I think that, I mean, it's so funny that ending is such a downer, and I won't spoil
such a downer.
I won't spoil the ending for anybody because I do think it's actually worth your time to seek out Beauty Jungle from 1960. But I think that ending can be read in a way about how I mean, clearly that this film feels that these pageants are destructive and there's not a lot of redeeming quality, which is funny because we will talk about other films that are much more positive on them.
Yeah. It's funny. It's because, like, it's almost as if, like, you know, like everyone you talk to is like, not everyone, but every time you listen to a story or hear someone it's like, oh, they're bad for women. These are bad for women. And it's either like, well, they're parading themselves around and that's immoral and it's objectifying them. And so, like, you can almost have a progressive argument against them, whereas, like, you know, they're being judged for beauty, and you can have a conservative argument against them of being like, these women are showing themselves off and it's all about vanity, and it's like, you know, and so there's two sides of, like, the bad argument where, like, they should go away, and then there's also on the same flip of it, like, a conservative and progressive argument for why they're good. You know, it's like, women should do whatever they want, and, like, you know, like, these are smart women, they are educated and, like, leaders in their communities, pop off. And then for, you know, the conservative argument, it's like, well, this is tradition, this is, you know, something about our family legacy, pride in your family, pride in your country, etc., etc. Next up, I saw The Queen in 1960. Well, we have already seen The Queen, obviously.
Yeah, we've talked about The Queen a lot on this show.
A lot.
But it's
iconic.
Yeah, very much so. And it is totally worth your while because, I mean, we even had a Netflix watch party where we invited a bunch of fans of the show to come watch it with us. And that's like a precious memory to me.
Yeah, so fun.
But, you know, the thing about The Queen is it really broke boundaries by not only introducing you to homosexual men and the subculture of drag at a time in which they could be jailed for such a thing, but it did it in it's such a personal way because it's very clear at points that this was
rigor mortis.
Yeah, rigor mortis. The pageant wasn't exactly fair, and but at the same time, it really lends itself to this pantheon of pageant films because it shows what sort of happens when you get to that side of it. When you get to the, like, what is this pageant actually about and what is the end goal?
What I love, I think, the most as I was watching these movies, I was just thinking about, you know, everyone takes it so seriously. This is something that, you know, for the people who are in it, they are in it, you know, and it's like, win or lose, they want to do their best. They want to look their best. They want, you know, especially, maybe not especially, but I guess for our kind of narrow view on American pageants, it's about, you know, putting yourself out there, putting your best self out there, and the seriousness within, like, which these gay men who have traveled from far and wide to come do this, like, silly pageant that is, like, run on, you know, some tape and a prayer, but it is serious, and they're gonna learn the choreo, they're gonna make sure their hair looks right, and it's like, no matter what.
I feel awfully sorry for the judges tonight. It's a hell of a responsibility having to pick out just one queen out of all of these brilliant contestants.
And that's, like, just throughout the entire watch, I was like, this is truly, like, the tension is always like, there's the one person who, like, doesn't care, is like, Mom, this is dumb, why don't you care? Like, why? And it's that tension of, like, why could someone be so involved, so invested in this? And I love that question, and I love, like, trying to noodle that answer, and the way that these movies try to answer that. I have to mention, so after the Queen, so that was 1968. In 1970 was when that big brouhaha happened at the Miss World pageant. That was international news. The first black Miss World was crowned. It was controversial for many reasons. Some say it was rigor mortis as well. But I mentioned that again because in 1973 we get the Great American Beauty Contest, which Gavin, you sent me.
Yes.
And I bring it up because that movie is specifically about those fucking women libbers out there who who are saying bad shit about contests. And so this is literally Hollywood taking cues from what was happening in the real world. And was this a TV movie? I couldn't figure that out.
It was, in fact, a TV movie. And I know that we mostly stick to big screen cinema here. But with a subject like this, as much fun as it is, there have been so many TV movies. Yeah. And I think what's fascinating about the Great American Beauty Prize is in a way, it's almost like watching the rigor mortis of the Queen, where you're watching a film pretend to be even-handed, be like,
right.
No, we're gonna show you the ins and outs, but it's very clearly has a viewpoint, a very specific viewpoint. And not just that, it's produced by Aaron Spelling.
Mm-hmm.
And Aaron Spelling was the gayest straight man ever. So it is high camp. It is drama at all times.
Absolutely.
It's young Farrah Fawcett. It's,
Oh my God, yes.
Joe Bunch, just what'd you say to these people?
Just the truth, darling.
Darling, they hardly know each other.
We what?
We just went to the same school and come from the same state.
Well, you're a damn lie, TL. What got into you?
And you?
Silence! Miss Dawson, on the Bible.
I swear on the Bible that I'm not married, and may my mother
Oh,
be
that's enough, dear. Now, gentlemen, I'm sure you won't hurt this girl's chances by publicizing this lie.
And it's also very the hot Italian judge is that is the one I will fuck and make win. And it's oh no, scandal. For campy drama nonsense, I was really kind of into it until the end. The ending really is nope, just kidding. Pageants are really important and we're not fucking around with this.
Yeah.
And don't you dare, women libbers, fucking try anything.
Yeah, it's a very comical, especially when you look at it in through the lens of 2021. It ends up being a very comical ending that
right.
I was quite surprised by. So I'll give them credit for me not knowing where it was going, even though I expected it as much.
Right. I was oh, they're gonna be fun and subversive, and then last minute, nope, okay, never mind.
Can't do that Sunday night on ABC.
No. In 1975, we get a very, very great film known as Smile, which I don't know, Gavin. You also sent me this, and I was oh my God, this is really excellent. Behind the scenes, kind of just dive into these kooky booky little town pageants, and I think they're just competing for what are they called? Men who get together, legionnaires?
Yeah,
they're
they're basically like a Shriners Club or that sort of situation. Yes. But yeah, this is a Michael Ritchie film. We've talked a little bit about him before because he also did The Candidate, the Robert Redford film. This is a very, and there should be a bell every time I bring up Robert Altman. It's a very Robert Altman-esque movie where there's a lot of disparate focus there. Yep. You follow a lot of the girls as they're entering the pageant, including a very young Melanie Griffith, and Annette O'Toole's in the movie, and you're also following.
She's so good.
Oh my God,
she's good.
She is. It's stupid how good she is in this movie. And now she's on what, fucking Virgin River on Netflix. I love you, Annette O'Toole. Get away from that. But we know that's not California. That is clearly Canada. Clearly Canadian. Anyways, then you're also focusing on the people who run the pageant, including the head of the pageant, who is played by Bruce Dern, who's really amazing in the film. And yeah, it's sort of this lost gem. And honestly, like, it's certainly not all PC. There's actually some of the stuff made me feel really uncomfortable. I felt really bad. There's a Mexican American contestant in it, and she ends up being the butt of a lot of jokes. But I also think that the film portrays her in such a ridiculous way that it almost feels like the audience is sort of expected to also laugh at her. And and that made me uncomfortable, because I was like, well, what are you trying to say here? Are you trying to get us to side with the people who don't like her, or
right? And it's almost like, oh, she's so the whole thing, she's so earnest.
Yes,
she's so just like, and she has like, you know, I feel like I can get away with this by saying she has a ridiculous accent in this movie.
Yeah, it's
like they pour it on extra hard. She's like, hola, I am Miss Santa Clarita, and it's border. She's on the borderline. I will say, at least they didn't hire like a white actress to do it.
Yes.
As I was watching, it gave me a lot of American Pie vibes. It's just, you know, like there's like the little brother who like is trying to take pictures of the girls while they dress. There's like the girls who like really care. There's the girls who don't fucking care. They have like really silly talents. Like one is literally packing.
It's a very clear predecessor to another film, which I'm sure we will talk about later, but it definitely feels like the mother of Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Yeah. It feels like the mother of like satirizing and kind of poking fun at this very silly thing. But what I like is in the end, like, you know, the girls kind of like all the winners and losers, all the like, you know, contestants are just like, it's for this little speck of California, you know, and this little speck of community. And it's like what this town has to hold on to, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's what, so let them have fun, guys.
It's so serious and so part of their life. I mean, one of my favorite scenes in it, Bruce Dern's character recites like essentially part of the code of the pageant.
Andy, it's very simple. All it takes is a drop more perseverance, a drop more optimism, and a drop more energy. Simple.
Hey, wait a minute. I've heard that before.
Heard what before?
That drip-drop crap. Brenda read that to me. That's right out of the Young American Miss program.
The good philosophy is good philosophy, and I don't happen to be a snob about where I get it from.
His friend's like, oh, you're the pageant queen. Like, you're
a pageant queen.
Yeah, you're her.
And he's like, what? No, me. Which is a nice segue into the next movie I watched. And Gavin, please fill in if you have any others you want to mention. But to another movie that we have talked about was my pick for our Alfred Woodard episode, Miss Firecracker. In 1989. And again, another movie about like a speck of dirt on this planet having a beauty pageant contest. And it is so important, not only to the community, but to, you know, Holly Hunter's character. And I love this movie. Like this movie to me is like damn near perfect. Holly Hunter is amazing. Alfred Woodard's amazing. I read the play while I was in college. It's just about wanting to remake yourself and see yourself as something more. I think a lot of pageant movies I saw throughout this also is very much the story of a girl wanting to get out. What's the ticket out of Nowheresville, America? It's like, if you're beautiful enough, smart enough, talented enough, that's the ticket. I'm going to be on TV one day. People will clap for me. I am more than this little hill on this earth. And I love that idea.
And that's certainly one of the things I also really love about Miss Firecracker 2 is it's rare that you follow the character in these pageant films that is told she's not good enough and not pretty enough. Because, I mean, I guess you could argue that point. I guess if you're talking about like Miss Congeniality, it's like, oh, she could never be a beauty queen, but she's also Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
And so so having somebody like Holly Hunter, who is genuinely beautiful, but looks like
she's small. She's not tall.
Yeah.
She doesn't have like but also what I love about Miss Firecracker also is she's trying to remake herself because she, and it's like in the subtext, was kind of a slut. People talked about she was immoral. People talked about her in ways that were not befitting of a woman of the South, a respectable woman. And she says, I'm not going to be Miss Little Hot Tamale anymore. I'm going to be like my cousin, played by the excellent Mary Steenburgen.
Oh my God, so good.
So fucking good. And I mean, this movie, God, like towards the end, I mean, so spoiler, she does not win Miss Firecracker. And she has to stand at the back of the parade. And the cousin's like, no, you don't have to do this. You don't have to go through this. And she's like, no, this is what happens. If you lose the pageant, you stand in the back. And I'm going to do that. And it's, again, what I love about a lot of these movies. It's like the winners who win with grace and the losers who lose with grace. And, you know, life is a pageant and you don't win all the time, and you like stick it out and you like have dignity. And I think there's so much dignity in this movie for all of its characters that I just love so much.
No, absolutely. Miss Firecracker is a brilliant film. And, you know, like you said, we watched it for Alfre Woodard, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that her character, even though she ends up having very little to do with the pageant herself, she's a great character.
She's her helper. She sews all her costumes. Popeye.
I'd be remiss if I didn't skip back to Britain in 1973. This is sort of the real dregs of this genre. The 25th films of the 31 Carry On series is called Carry On Girls. And it is a film in which there is a beauty pageant. And because of that, you can make a lot of ooh or miss jokes and a lot of like double entendres and a lot of there's a man in a dress at one point. And yeah. And so there's occasionally an attempt to do comedic pageant films that just fully fucking fall flat on their face because they come from a misogynistic, sexist realm.
Right.
And,
Imagine.
And I will say, like, there were points I laughed at Carry On Girls. There were many, but I did. But know that it's out there, and know that there's 31 Carry On films, and they're all of a similar vein. So, and this is number 25.
I don't want you to take part in this.
Oh, darling, I'm enjoying it. And I might even win.
I can't help that. I can't stand the thought of all those people out there leering at you and mentally undressing you.
They won't have to strain their mentality much in this outfit.
You're not going out there in that.
Why, don't you think it's suitable?
Suitable? You're showing your button.
My what?
Your button, that.
Oh, is that bad?
If you see one, you've seen them all. I also saw No Contest, which in 1995, the genre of pageant movies really just like runs the gamut.
Yeah.
But I think No Contest was the first one that I saw that like was really going to be like, okay, what about pageants? But like extreme pageants, bitches blowing up everywhere, Andrew Dice Clay, gambling. It's imagine the most 1995 thing ever, like it's Mortal Kombat, yes. But make it pageants.
Well, what it really is, what it fully is it's Die Hard. It is a pageant queen trapped in a building with a bunch of terrorists, and there's a policeman outside who's trying to help her get around the building to take down the terrorists. The thing that I think is the most funny about this, just to give you kind of the idea of what sort of society we're in, Shannon Tweed plays the main woman in it who has to do all the action and take down the bad guys.
Right.
Her face is not on the poster of the movie. Robert Davi and Andrew Dice Clay's faces are on it. Her name is on the poster, but the main bad guy and her police assistant are on the cover of the film. And that's because when you make a movie like this, the thought process is no man is going to go see a movie with a female lead, and women aren't interested in action movies, which is so wrong and so backwards and so bonkers. And so bonkers. And I know bonkwards. It's so bonkwards. And I know this was 95, but that's also 26 years ago? That's not that far away.
Yeah. I will say that it is fun to watch because graphics. They rarely said they say we have graphics. Someone get me the graphics. A lot of girls running around and literally blowing up, and like the filmmakers really said, okay, I want a mannequin on fire, and we're gonna throw it out of this building, and that is filmmaking.
Yeah. Sadly, that mannequin won Miss Congeniality that year.
Yeah, that was her. Also in 95, though, we get Tu Wong Fu, which is just, again, another movie we've talked about before in our Dragon Film episode.
Oh, we also talked about it on road movies. Like Tu Wong Fu has it all. Does it have drag queens? Does it have pageants? Does it have cars? We got it all.
The answer is yes. So we won't talk about it too much, especially, the movie kicks off with a pageant, with a tie, and then it ends in a pageant. And so the bulk of it is not about a pageant, but the framing. And we get RuPaul as, what's her like very racially charged name?
Rachel Tensions.
There you go.
And the winner is... We have a tie!
Tie? Oh my God. What you mean tie?
And the winners are... Miss Noxima Jackson and Miss Vita Moran! Work the runway, work it!
Okay, this is, I think, a good stopping point, because I think it's very important that our listeners know it's 1995. We're living, we're laughing for Tu Wong Fu. Pageants are so fun, guys. And then, in 1996, one of the biggest stories in American history relating to pageants happens. And that, my friends, is the death of JonBenet Ramsey. This story fucking shake, rattle, and rolled us. It still, to this day, is, everyone knows the story. She was a small pageant gal. Literally, if you think of a little pageant toddler in tiaras, you are thinking of JonBenet Ramsey. That face, that crown, that hair. And she mysteriously died. And to this day, it's an unsolved mystery. We were enraptured by this story.
Yeah. I mean, even to this day, there was a great film that came out 2 or 3 years ago called Casting JonBenet, which falls into this pageant category, and I highly recommend. It was like my second favorite film of the year it came out. It's so worth your time, but it's essentially about the fascination that we got with this unsolved mystery.
I bring that up because, well, one, it is further fueling the fascination with pageants. I think, when you look at a lot of the movies after JonBenet's death, it is definitely being kind of like Smile before, taking a more like closer investigation of like how ridiculous this all is. Like, this is ridiculous. And I mean, I don't want to skip over. We'll get to the movies, but it's just. I think what shocked people was like looking at this tiny little girl, realizing that this like subgenre of society existed. This was a child, like a 5-year-old, 7-year-old, dressed up like a 45-year-old, and it's almost that idea like you're making young kids act like adults, and now there are adult problems that are following.
And I think what ended up happening with this is I believe people were aware of childhood pageants, so it wasn't like a big mystery to most people, but I don't think they realized the culture it had created amongst itself.
Correct.
The obsessive parents, the obsessive fans, and the over-sexualization of children.
And the money involved, frankly.
Yeah.
Being in a pageant is expensive. And with money always comes problems, which, I mean... this is a bad segue, but in 1997, the Lifetime original Crowned and Dangerous is released. Which
that is both a bad segue and also the perfect segue that movie deserves. Yeah.
Yes, correct. I'm not going to lie. I got through half of it and I said, I need to move the fuck on.
What does it say about me that I watched the whole thing? Anyways.
Yeah, Gavin, can I guess who did it in the end?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's too easy to be the mom. I don't think it was the mom. I think it was George Eads.
No, it was Yasmin Bleef, and she like blamed it on her mom, but then her mom like turned around and
was like her pro.
Yeah, got her to confess, so.
From out of the ashes always comes good. We can all grow and learn from what's happened here. And I'm sure that all our lives have been affected by this travesty in one way or another. But I will not let this alter my responsibility in representing my state as Miss All-Star California.
1999, we get Dropped Dead Gorgeous, which to me also feels just like such a reaction to the JonBenet of it all. Like going to these places, looking at these country fried folks who are truly just like wanting to get out, wanting to break from, the shackles of small town. Drop Dead Gorgeous, I have to say, came up very briefly in our Kristen Dunst episode. All the way back in episode 1. My good friend Shaddy, after listening to that first episode, he said, you guys did Drop Dead Gorgeous dirty. He said, how dare you disrespect Drop Dead Gorgeous? Well, I'm here to tell you, babe, Drop Dead Gorgeous is getting her redemption story. This is her all-stars. Because Drop Dead Gorgeous is so fucking good. It's unreal how good this movie is.
It genuinely is. And here's the thing. Listen, do all the jokes land in a 2020 setting? No. Are there certainly problematic moments in that movie? Yes, quite a fair share. But the things that land so hard and so fucking good. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, if you look at the reviews at the time, they were a little harsh going after the comedy, saying that not everything worked. And I almost feel like it maybe needed to be sat with for a while, because I think a lot of the satire is so dead on and so sharp and so funny. And if you can watch that movie and not be like, Kirsten Dunst is a fucking star as she just steamrolls through that film, I mean, you're deranged if you can't recognize that. She's brilliant. She's pitch perfectly brilliant.
Yeah. Denise Richards also proving that she is not only just a model, she is given the perfect package to fucking deliver. She delivers, and she is perfect as this Bible thumping, gun toting mega bitch. And it's the Kirstie Alley of it all. It goes on and on. I do have to say, I don't think we'll ever see Denise Richards again. So stupid. Oh, I love that. Famous, model actress Denise Richards. Never see her again.
Never see her again.
I'm gonna really quickly go through 99's other pageant movie, because I didn't get to watch it, but I really wish I could have. Happy Texas, which is Steve Zahn and someone else. I don't know. Truly, I saw the trailer and I was like, fuck, I should have made time for this. But
it's a fun movie, but I didn't revisit it for this. I remember liking it, but I don't remember loving it. And so, I mean, honestly, we can just leave it there. But if you need to seek it out, people, I do remember it being fun. It's a lot of fun.
They're con men. Yeah. They're con men who accidentally steal the bus of these two gay pageant dads.
Yeah.
And they're on the run and they're hiding as these pageant dads.
And that movie really was sort of around the height of the Sundance Film Festival, when you could buy a movie like that and be like, this is gonna make money. So
yeah. Aw, Steve Zahn.
Oh, he's great. He's great. No offense to Steve Zahn.
No offense to Steve Zahn. 2000, the last innocent year. of these United States. We get 2 more pageant movies. One very successful, one not so much. One starring Minnie Driver, one starring Sandra Bullock. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage. It's Miss Congeniality and Beautiful. Gavin, did you know the movie Beautiful existed?
Yes, I did, because I actually watched it for a Sally Field episode because Sally Field directed
it.
Yes.
I knew that. Oh my God.
Yep.
I can't. Wow. You saying that is like PTSDing me. When I started watching it, I was like, Sally?
Yeah.
Directing this?
No good. Which bums me out because I think Sally Field actually shows real potential in terms of directing, and she unfortunately has never directed anything since in terms of big screen movies. But that movie is just, it's a hard watch. And I also love me some Minnie Driver, but that character is basically irredeemable, and you're spending so much time with her.
Yeah, truly, it's like, what if I cared more about pageants than my daughter? And the whole point of the movie later is I actually end up liking my daughter, but I get to win anyway because I like my daughter. It's rough. It's rough.
Is this your daughter? No, you can't be Miss Illinois and have a child. Well, she looks just like you. No, she doesn't. Oh, of course.
In addition to being a rough movie, it just also was absolutely eclipsed by the giant supernova that is Sandra Bullock and Miss Congeniality. Like, on my notes that I have right here on my phone in front of me, all I wrote down was Sandra Bullock is a fucking star. Like, we've talked about this before on the Sandra Bullock episode. You know, just to have that much charisma to pull off when she's fucking walking, I said this in the same episode, when she's walking in that dress and then falls and then gets up, I'm like, she is stunning. I like her. I want to be her. She's funny. Everything, like the hair, everything she's selling in that movie, I am buying. Everything.
And for me, this experience has been one of the most rewarding and liberating experiences of my life.
My God. I did it.
And if anyone tries to hurt one of my new friends, I would take them out.
The movie is such a huge, enormous hit. Like, I think for a while there hadn't been like a ton of news. I think Vanessa Williams had to give back her crown in the 80s.
Yeah. She's maybe one of the most famous things to ever happen to pageants because they treated her so poorly.
Poorly.
Because she had some racy photos in her past. I do believe they are nudes, but...
they're nudes, but like you can't... They literally were taken by like a professional photographer.
Yeah.
And like they were artsy. Like by today's standards, if someone saw that, they'd be like, so she posed like in a studio, like
right.
What? Like, all that to say, I think Miss Congeniality really kind of like brought it back in the culture, like the classic, the traditional. You know, it's in fucking Texas. Like, I think also a reason why this movie just slaps so hard is like all the music is just pitch perfect. Like, ask me for a better walkout song than You're One in a Million. Doesn't exist, Mari.
It's true.
Ain't gonna happen. The costumes, it's all just so good. Whipping through the millennium, we get Little Miss Sunshine in 2006, which we also talked about in our road trip movies. The destination is the pageant. It's very sweet, very funny, super drama. We Live, Laugh, Love. You also sent me a very chaotic movie, Gavin, from 2007 called Elvis and Annabelle.
Yes.
My God, if I had existed on this earthly plane without ever knowing that this movie existed, I'd be a better human being.
Yeah, that one's a hard one because it's not necessarily about pageants so much as it's about a beauty queen but also the chaos that her life has been because of the pageants, and she's given a second chance at life with some magical realism and a young mortician who kisses her back to life. And she's given a second chance to live out her non-pageant life, and it's full of like bad magical realism. It's full of bad like indie tropes from that era, and also, I mean, and maybe I'll get shit for this, Max Minghella, like, maybe not a good actor.
Max Minghella is very handsome, but he is a suspicious actor at best, and he certainly cannot do a Southern accent.
Yeah.
Like, Blake Lively was like, you know what, I'm not going to do an accent. And you know what? Good for her. Like, you don't need to be in Texas and have an accent. Like, it's fine. We exist. I'm not even going to dare ask the question if Blake Lively is a good actress. That's just a mystery that I cannot unravel, not within this here podcast.
Yeah, it would take too much time. These episodes are long enough as they are.
I did want to talk about 2009's Whip It, which is such a charming little movie that I hadn't revisited in such a long time. My main takeaway from this movie is that if you love anything enough, it is a pageant. If you put enough energy, invest enough time in anything, like, that is your pageant. And so guess what? Roller derbies are pageants. Marching bands are pageants. You know, acting, it's all, life is a pageant, you know, I fucking, you know, Whip It is, the only negative thing about Whip It is, my God, the Jimmy Fallon of it all.
Yeah. Literally, I could talk about Whip It for such a long time. I have a friend who was actually involved with TXRD at the time that Whip It was being made. I genuinely love that movie. I wish we got more directed by Drew Barrymore films.
Correct.
But yeah, but Whip It is. It's so funny because I was like looking through and I was like, oh yeah, Whip It is a pageant film.
Movie. Her mother, Marsha Gay Harden, she's like a classic, you know, woman of the South outside of Austin, wants Elliot Page's character to, you know, participate in Miss Bluebonnet. And it's important to her. And again, like, kind of like similarly with a lot of movies that we'll watch, it's about having opportunities, not having to rely on other men. And so like these are like really great arguments in favor of these contests. If you can, you know, have the great speech, have the great answers to the question, like, you will be catapulted out of this podunk town. And, you know, for Elliot Page's character, it's not the pageant that's going to do that for their character. It's this new family, this new group of women who are supportive and diverse and just fucking cool. It's about finding your own family.
I'm sorry that these pageants don't live up to your high moral standards, Bliss. But there's the love you can learn from them, no matter what you go on to be in life. You think you're being judged up there on that stage, but no one's asking you to be Miss America.
I want to be Miss America.
And you're going to be the best one ever, sweetheart.
So that's 2009's Whip It. I have to really briefly talk about 2011's Miss Bala.
Yes.
Only because it is literally based on a true story about a Mexican pageant queen who, in real life, they caught her smuggling like a shit ton of money, drugs, and guns during a pageant. And, you know, I don't even know what the real story is, TBH, because I know the movie changed a lot of it. But they were like, she was running drugs, and she's like, no, I was kidnapped and they made me do this stuff. And then also allegations of corruption within the actual system of this Mexican pageant. And they were like, we don't know shit. She was dethroned, spent time in jail. But I hear she's back and she's a model now still.
Oh, so, good for her.
Yeah.
It was selected as the Mexican entry for Best Foreign Language Film at the 84th Academy Awards, but ended up not even making the final shortlist, which is a shame because it's a very, very good movie. I remember seeing it around the time I used to work for Filmmaker Magazine, and I really liked it. And then in 2019, they remade it.
Please! No!
Catherine Hardwicke how dare you remake this movie?
Did she make it with her Twilight money?
Yeah, I mean, she was probably trying to build more money off for Twilight money. I mean, Gina Rodriguez was in it, Anthony Mackie. I didn't see it.
No.
I would suggest, if you want to see that movie and a good version of that movie, 2011's Miss Bala is right there.
Just watch the Mexican version, guys.
Yeah, Spanish isn't that hard, guys. There's subtitles. Enjoy.
It's fine. Moving right along, we get Dumplin' in 2018 based on the book. I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
I
remember
novel,
when it came out.
Yeah. We got a great Dolly song out of it.
We certainly did.
You know what's crazy? I remember watching it and being like, Ginger Minge is very good in this.
Yes.
Everything else I could leave.
There was one queen. There's one queen that looks so much like Dolly that for a hot second I was like, oh, Dolly's actually... Nope, never mind.
Nope. Dolly said, I'll write you a song. How about that?
Yeah.
And then, that kind of gets us to today. I watched today. I watched Miss Juneteenth and I watched Misbehavior, both movies that came out last year.
Yes.
Miss Juneteenth is very lovely. Literally, as soon as it started, I recognized that part of Texas almost immediately. It's about, a former pageant winner trying to get her daughter to participate as well. Specifically, it's a Black pageant. And it's, and the hardships and struggles and the things that people go through to be involved in these things. A very lovely movie.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd be remiss if we didn't mention Miss Juneteenth. Like you said, it came out last year. I believe it's on Amazon Prime. Nicole Bahari plays the mother character in it. She's had a sort of rough go of Hollywood because she's unfortunately one of those Black women that for some reason at some point in time was labeled quote unquote difficult. We've mentioned that on the show before. That's a big red flag for people of color, because usually it's just a way of keeping them from getting work. So don't always believe everything you read. Let's just say that. But she's fantastic in this movie. She truly is. I really liked Miss Juneteenth, and so I'm glad you brought it up.
As the winner of Miss Juneteenth, you will receive a full scholarship to any historically Black institution of your choice. Sonia has chosen Texas Southern University to attend in the fall. We are so proud of you, Sonia.
Misbehavior came out last year, kind of got swallowed up by the pandemic. It's available to watch on, where did I watch it? I think I paid $3 to watch it on Amazon or something. Which is a fictionalized version of the 1970 Miss World pageant with all the women's liberation movement. Keira Knightley stars. Misbehavior is a very basic movie.
Yes.
But it is a very good primer, I would say, on the connection between women's liberation and beauty pageants and their how they cross paths.
Yeah. The intersectionalism of them. I will say, though, my complaint about the movie is it's oftentimes, because it's such a basic history, it's oftentimes a film in which there's very good performances, but also really wants to be one of those feel-good ensemble British films that I think it pulls a lot of its punches. And on top of everything else, Greg Kinnear's Bob Hope is both awful and that makeup is horrific.
Was that a nose?
Scary.
Did they put a nose on him?
Yeah.
I was I know that's Greg Kinnear, but it's Uncanny Valley Greg Kinnear.
Yeah, it's not great, Bob.
No. Okay, I purposely put documentaries in another bucket just because they are so fucking good, and I want to make sure we give them, because when it comes to pageant world, they're it's stranger than fiction. It's so good. So the first one that I watched was 2001's The Living Dolls, which was a miniseries on HBO. Is that correct?
It was just a full-on documentary.
Okay.
I know it was broken up in parts. It's hard to find, but if anybody wants to seek it out on YouTube, it's all there.
DMS.
Yeah, it's all broken up in parts. I would say Living Dolls is a horror film.
Yes,
truly. And I cannot believe how much these people were willing to let themselves be put on camera in this fashion.
But that's the thing, because they want, like, if you are a pageant gal, if you're a pageant mom, you will be put out there. I mean, it's the same thing like at work. I'm like, how did we get photographs of these people being so ridiculous? They're like, are you kidding? They gave them to us. They want to be like in the paper. Living Dolls is horrifying, but also just so deeply I couldn't stop. I was like carrying my computer around because I had to go do chores, but I was like, nope, I'm gonna keep watching and holding it and watching. It's so I Googled the people afterwards. I was like, where
did you?
Are they now?
Because I was so curious, but also I was terrified. So I was like, you know what? Why don't I let it be? Because genuinely, and like even the littlest things would get me, like, so clear that this mother is paying no attention to their son, so he's acting out and like basically spending time in juvie while she's like, I gotta get my daughter ready for the pageant. Like, I was like, no.
What's bizarre to me is they have this is a documentary that follows around majority of the time this one family. The girl's name is Swan. I think it's Swan Bruner, and her mother, and like the aggressive lengths she's going. And this child is 5 years old, and she's an ex-military mom. She treats her daughter as such. They also have like stepkids involved. The mom has a boyfriend. It's kind of like a hodgepodge family. It seems like a pretty functional family. I don't want to say it's dysfunctional, because it's not like times are hard at home. It's not that at all, but it's literally this mom being like, I have 3 jobs because I need to make sure I'm paid for the best of XYZ. There are other kids though that like clearly are not getting the same attention that Swan is getting. And it's just like, buckle up, because it is a wild, wild ride.
Swan is going to be losing a tooth here real soon. It's really loose. And we're hoping that it doesn't fall out right before Beauty. And I told Swan that if she can keep her tooth in for Beauty, that I'll give her more than the tooth fairy will.
They meet up with like some gay dad. They don't say they're gay, but they're gay babes, who are professionals. They live in like this palatial estate in Alabama that they have paid for by like charging sad straight moms like exorbitant amount of money to like help their kids out. It's an incredible documentary, and the things that little Swan goes through is roof stoof is what I'll say.
Yeah.
Fully. Highly recommend Googling it. It's on, like Gavin said, it's on YouTube.
I mean, it's certainly not for the faint of heart.
No. We also watched Miss Navajo.
We did. Miss Navajo, which is like an hour long, and truly, watching these movies, I was certainly getting the bad impression. I was certainly getting the like, wow, pageants are really bad, and like maybe we shouldn't have them. And the thing I liked about Miss Navajo was it was a way of working within a system that is a very like, this is a thing we do, that pushes maintains our relationship with our culture as well.
Yep.
As not just being about beauty and not just being because it's rough, that pageant. I mean, one of the categories is, and I kind of love the fact that previous Miss Navajos can add categories, but one of them added a category where you have to slaughter a sheep because it's important to their people. And one of my favorites is one of the interviews with the pageant queens after her is like, yeah, I think we should get rid of that. She's
like, I don't know how appropriate that part is, but and like literally I think it's like 2005 is the year that they're kind of watching as it happens. One of the contestants has to drop out because of exhaustion. While she's slaughtering the sheep. I to echo what you said, Gavin, I had a moment where, because part of the pageant is you have to know the Navajo language.
Yes.
And a lot of these millennial young women really struggle with the Navajo language. And the movie does a good job of talking about why that is. It does a good job of saying, you know, like, they added that portion in because a lot of the elder winners of Miss Navajo were like, listen, our language was beaten out of us.
Yeah.
You know, and so this is a way that we are keeping this alive. And it reminded me a lot about, I remember in middle school, I joined our mariachi, which basically is pageant music for Mexicans. And my mom like was crying, and I was like, why is she crying? Like, as I'm playing, you know, some fucking song. And it just like got to me. And she told me, she's like, you know, this is our culture. And like, you know, I struggle with like Spanish language all the fucking time. And it just reminded me like so much of that. And these are, you know, young women who truly are special. And there's like this one girl who's like, my father is an alcoholic, and that is ravaging our community. And I want to show the Navajo people that you can live life and stay away from drinking and do something good for the community. And so like this, kind of to your point, like it kind of brings in like this hopefulness of like, this isn't just, you know, oh, these are like beautiful, successful women. It's like, these are women who are there to preserve something that could potentially be lost.
Absolutely. It's a really fascinating documentary, and I almost wish, like, I mean, not every documentary needs to be a series, but that's the one where I'm almost like, you know, if we could follow these girls every year,
yeah,
I'd be curious.
Yeah.
A lot of our people, our young little ones, especially tiny ones, little children, really look up to Miss Navajo. That's what I believe Miss Navajo radiates, is this beauty.
It showcases every aspect of the young lady, from the point of spirituality to her family, all the way to what she's willing to teach to the entire population of Diné people.
On the opposite side of that, can I mention one that sort of was what was doing me in, which is the 2016 documentary To Be a Miss, which is a documentary about pageants in Venezuela. Venezuela has the most pageants in the entire world. It has the most international winners in the entire world. But there is a cost when it comes to that. 70% of, I believe they said 70% of the female population of Venezuela spends, you know, at least a third of their income on makeup.
Wow.
Some crazy number, and I don't have it exactly in front of me, but close to like 80 to 85% have had some sort of cosmetic surgery. There's a doctor in it who points out a lot of 14-year-old girls are willing to forego their 15th birthday party to get some form of plastic surgery instead. And once again, not being judgmental about plastic surgery, but I think the pressure to make young women grow up too quickly is a huge problem, is a patriarchy. And you know, at one point, one of the doctors is like, every woman wants to be a queen. Every woman dreams of being a princess or a queen. And it's like, yes, but when you win a pageant, you're signing up for a year of servitude. You're not like, being a queen is a power fantasy. It's not about having to show up at every fucking grocery store opening and having to show, you know. And so I don't know. I think To Be a Miss is a really, really fascinating. It's on Amazon. You can rent it for like $5. And it's a really, really fascinating look into this culture that is driven by, you know, essentially being able to look as best as you possibly can. It's really, really fascinating. And I mean, obviously these filmmakers had a point of view, and they're making a point about Venezuela, but they're also making a point about the broader culture of pageants in general.
Right.
It becomes something that really has taken Venezuelan pride and Venezuelan nationalism and really turned it into a way of making money.
The last two documentaries that I watched, obviously we've talked about Pageant before. This is 2008. Talking about one of the most elite drag pageants in the United States. One of the people they follow is Miss Pork Chop Parker. We talk about this a lot in our Drag on Film episode. You can go check that out. It's lovely. I've seen it like 3 times now. I love it so much.
Yeah, it's got some great quotable lines.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also 2013's Miss You Can Do It, which is also an HBO documentary about differently abled pageant queens. And it's also like youngsters. So like in the realm of living dolls, but make it for, kids in wheelchairs with crutches, stuff like that. Just like super heartwarming and like all the good things of like love, adoration, feeling beautiful, but truly feeling more accessible to a wider and not just like the tiny little able-bodied humans that get to do that. Did you see any other documentaries, Gavin, that you want to talk about?
I do want to just give one more shout out to another queer documentary, which is the Queens from 2018. And it chronicles the Miss Continental pageant, which is traditionally for transgender women, but also does allow drag queens, and weirdly enough has a very hard and fast rule about you not having had gender confirming surgery, because the guy that created the pageant essentially says, like, if you've gone that far, it's not about illusion anymore. It's a very strange rule. It's their rule. I didn't make it up, but it's worth watching that movie. And it's really fascinating. The editing is really bad, especially coming from an editor. Like there's a lot of like cross zooms and a lot of like ray zooms. And I was like, okay.
What year did this come out? Was this 2018?
2018. Okay. But yeah, it's cool and interesting and worth watching. And there's a lot of really, really amazing queens, that talk about, all the stuff that they have to go through to get in this pageant, the way that they eat. Sunny Delight, Mimi Marks, Sherry Payne, the legendary Alexis Gabrielle Sherrington. So I would definitely highly recommend watching this. Oh, and of course, Drag Race superstar Naysha Lopez. So
how could you forget Naysha?
Yeah, Naysha apparently said she's going to be participating in Mr. Continental this year. So she wants to be the first queen to win both. So
casual.
There's a red bag that is missing. So if anybody sees or somebody accidentally picked it up and thought or it got kicked under a table, just do a look.
Some stuff has come up missing, and some girls get a little shady and whatnot.
People steal stuff a lot. Jewelry, silly stuff like that, yeah, to try to get you.
Gowns can disappear, talent costumes can disappear, dancers walking out.
It's sabotage. 1 year it happened to me, but I had professional dancers. My props were off stage, and I had Velvet fans, and the dancers couldn't locate the fans, and they didn't make it back on time. Maybe that's why I lost, because I had to change my swimsuit because somebody stole the swimsuit.
So I think that kind of like covers, I'm sure there are plenty of other pageant movies out there, certainly ones that are not as Western-centric as well. Like I mentioned, there are pageants worldwide. And I certainly like, especially like I'm thinking like Bollywood films, like pageants and stuff in India. That's out there, gals. What I love about these movies, though, is just like, it's such a fun and interesting topic to go in and out of. Like one movie I'm like, oh my god, pageants are the devil, like what the fuck is going on? And then the next I'm like, oh my god, she did it, she won, and she is the best. Okay, she's gonna get out, she's gonna live her dreams. And I love that. That's called being a verse queen.
There truly is a pageant film for everyone.
Yes. Okay, so Gavin, why don't we get into our picks? What do you think? 1-star reviews first or 5-star reviews?
Let's start with our 1-star reviews because it's gonna get bonkers. So I picked a film that was not even mentioned because it is so out there, so wacky, so kooky booky, as Louie would say.
Oh my god. If you... Go ahead. Go
okay.
ahead. I'm scared.
I have to talk to you about, and I will preface this by saying I hate picking a movie that I know nobody else is going to go see. But if I have to know about it, you have to know about it. So I'm going to pick the 2004 American parody, quote, anarchic comedy, Miss Castaway and the Island Girls.
You sent this to me.
I did.
And I was going through the little list of things to watch. I click on this, thinking, delightful. I'm going to finish all the movies Gavin sent me. I gave this movie about 15 seconds before I said, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No. I got to maybe Jurassic Pork and said, I'm out of here, babe.
I'm not saying that I deserve sainthood, but I'm saying it would be welcome.
You deserve to be put in the ground, sir. Okay. After that film.
It is a film that's purportedly in the style of Scary Movie. But it is a parody film about a plane full of beauty queens who get stuck on an island. It stars Eric Roberts as Captain Maximus Powers and Charlie Shlatter, who we've actually spoken about before because he was Ferris Bueller in the Ferris Bueller TV show.
Oh, wow. So he's really making moves, doing things.
Yeah, it is possibly one of the worst things I've ever seen. It was basically like watching a hate crime happen in front of me. I hated everything so much. Director Brian Michael Stoller should never be allowed to make another movie ever again. As I've said before, I don't think it's a critic's job to tell you whether you should see a movie or you should not. Don't see this movie. Unless I don't know. I don't know why you would.
I think you have to be high to watch this movie, and not in a fun way.
Not in a fun way. It has to be a bad trip. And
yes,
I will say
watching this movie is like a bad trip.
It's bad graphics. It's clearly made for $2, but I will say the thing that this film is famous for is that it was Michael Jackson's final film. He appears in the form of a hologram in the film. They had to shoot all of his scenes actually at Neverland Ranch. And he's a hologram who's assigned by the Vatican to stop the second coming of Noah's Ark because it will flood the earth. I don't know if it's a good choice to have Michael Jackson associated with the Vatican.
No, probably not.
I will let you guys read between the lines on that one. But yeah, it's a disaster of a film, and I wish it nothing but horrible, horrible death.
Good evening, Agent Mike. The Ark will sail for 40 days and 40 nights. You must stop it.
But why? It's our only way off the island.
You have to stop it, Mike.
I hope to never have to talk about it again. So, Louie, what was your 1-star review?
If we ever had to do like the one-iest 1-star review there ever was, like that is it.
Yeah, that would take the cake.
The movie starts with the director's mom.
Yes.
Talking about his previous film.
Yeah.
It just makes me so mad because this guy had 50 cents and he decided I'm going to like suck my own dick, you know?
Yeah.
Like that.
He could have spent it on anything. You know, no one has cured cancer yet. I'm just saying.
I know. Hello? Make a donation, babe. Okay, I am just going to put this film out of its misery, though not as bad as Miss Castaway and whatever the fuck. I'm picking 2007's Elvis and Annabelle. And for many reasons, but I thought that this movie was going to go somewhere at least attempting to be dark, attempting to like be like, I thought this movie stars Blake Lively and Max Minghella. Max is this young mortician. Blake is a beauty queen. She does a lot of like looking in the mirror at her stomach.
That's how you know she's a beauty queen.
Right. And unfortunately, Mary Steenburgen, who I Live, Laugh, Love in a pageant movie, is her mother here.
This moment, right here, this can change your life. Do you get that? We're talking lunches with the governor and scholarships and modeling contracts, the works. I mean, true freedom. That means never having to count on some jackass of a man like your stepfather for your happiness. That's what it means. But only if, and I mean only if you truly believe you can win.
And she's very like, you gotta be Miss Texas Rose. I think that's the contest. They're competing in Miss Texas Rose. But she has a stepdaughter, or a stepfather. She has a stepfather who is kind of like ooky spooky. Like, I'm like getting bad vibes. And she's like always looking at her stomach. There's a whole bit where like she's bloated and can't fit into her dress. She's puking before the pageant. I'm like, oh no, this is about Blake Lively, beauty girl who like was raped by her stepdad and now is pregnant. That's what I thought this movie was going to be, which is already like not a great thing. Like I don't know how to make that movie into like a fun, good movie. Like that's just already bad. But instead, the movie is, no, she's bloated and sick because she's anorexic and has a heart attack or whatever on the stage. She wins the contest and then immediately dies. It's because she's anorexic and the stress and whatever gives her a heart attack or a stroke or some shit and dies on stage. That is within the first, if I'm being generous, half hour of the movie. And I thought, well, there's no way she's dead because her name's on the poster. Like, what the fuck are they going to do? We'll have this movie in flashback. But as Gavin said before, they take her to the mortician and Max Minghella is doing all the work because his dad had an accident, I guess, and has turned into the Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's very bizarre. It's just a like psychotic movie. There's something here about love, I guess. There's something here about like the power of kissing a dead woman. I don't know. But she's very like, when her parents find out she has returned to the living universe, they're like, okay, she's Miss Rose again. And she's like, no, Mom, I can't. The flashing lights are too crazy. I just want to be a normal girl serving this man I don't know. She feels a connection because he's brought her to life. It's not as kooky booky as Michael Jackson and the Pope, but
gets close.
It's close. You know what? I literally texted you, Gavin. I was like, this man is about to kiss this girl, and I'm screaming at my computer, no, don't kiss the girl. There's like a controversy, like people think now he's fucking dead people, and he's like, no, I just kissed this one girl this one time, and it's like, that's not, I mean, it's better, but like still not great, bud. Shouldn't be kissing the bodies that come in. Like, I'm sorry that you saw Blake Lively on a fucking cadaver table. Like, you let her be, okay? Don't kiss the dead bodies. Enough about that, Gavin. I'm sorry. I went off the rails there. I realized that. Judges, I realized I went off the rails there over my 1 minute time allotment. Please forgive me.
I'm very impressed by your rant. I don't know. So I can't really follow it up with much more other than that movie is bad.
Bad. Were there other movies that you also thought were bad?
Oh, well, I mean, the aforementioned Carry On Girls is really not much of anything.
I think Dumplin tries very hard to do something and ultimately misses the mark for me.
Yeah.
I didn't rewatch it, but I remember watching it and being like, huh. That?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. And then also No Contest because, as I said before, it's very much it's action movie that they've draped a pageant over, and it's so sexist anyways that it can't control itself.
It really is. Every other scene, I'm like, they just thought, what if we start blowing up the beauty queens? Just blow them all up. It's like, okay.
But let's get out of our 1-star reviews. Why don't we get into our 5-star reviews and start crowning some beauties?
Hit me, Gavin. Who has won your Miss Congeniality?
I mean, I actually do think there are many good choices, and I don't think there are a lot of wrong choices here, because I think when a pageant film is good, you know it's good, and you're willing to give it your 10 points. But I will
Yes.
say my favorite, the one I had the most fun with, and the best time is 1975 Smile. As I mentioned before.
Good choice.
Oh, why, thank you. As I mentioned before, it's really sort of a lost gem. I don't think people think about this film, but I think it really deserves its place in this sort of like Americana canon from the 70s Hollywood. These
Absolutely.
sort of these films that sort of defied genre and defied story structure and were doing their own thing. I also think this film genuinely actually has a lot to say about pageants. One of my favorite scenes in it is two of the characters talking about scholarships.
Their parents made them beautiful, not them. Yeah, but I got it. Boys get money and scholarships for making a lot of touchdowns, right? Yeah. Why shouldn't a girl get one for being cute and charming? Yeah, but maybe boys shouldn't be getting money for making touchdowns.
And it's like, yes, correct.
What do you mean?
So, and I think there's a lot going on here. As we talked about it before, you know, there's the man running the pageant. He's the head judge, Big Bob Freelander, and he's a used car dealership. There's Brenda DiCarlo, who's the pageant executive director, and her husband, Andy, who is an alcoholic and also a total jerk. There's the contestants, and there's Big Bob Freelander's son, Little Bob. And it's all these characters and sort of how they interact over the week building up to the pageants, through the rehearsals, through the, you know, working with the producers. Tommy French, this choreographer who's brought in from Hollywood, who's incredibly blunt. There's great moments where the girls have practiced this one way and then they decide that they're running out of budget, so they remove a ramp and it causes one of the pageant contestants to injure herself by falling off the stage. It's a lot of these fun, disparate moments, but really paint you a broader picture of what this small town pageant and what it means to these people and what it both the participants and the people surrounding it. You know, Big Bob Freelander has made his life this pageant without even realizing it. He let it take over everything he does. It's a fascinating watch. It's really, really funny. It's really surprising. I do not want to give away the ending, but I will say this. Michael Ritchie did not tell his director of photography, Conrad L. Hall, who the winner was. So at the end of the movie, when they announce the winner, once again, not telling you who the winner is, the camera has to like jerk around and search for her like at a real beauty pageant. Because Conrad didn't know. It's really fantastic, and I think it really captures that feel and everything that you really want from a beauty pageant film. I will say some reservations about some of the jokes, but I think that comes with the time period, and you know, if I had directed it, I would have cut them out. But that's me, not him.
Yeah, I too will honor Gavin's choice and not spoil the ending, but I love it so much.
It's a very good ending.
I just love, you know, that's pageants, babe.
Truly.
Very good choice, Gavin. My 5-star review has to, well, it doesn't have to, but I had this internal struggle, this internal debate so hard. Like, what am I going to choose? Because I thought I was going to go into this being like, no contest, you know, crown it. But after much thought, the jury deliberations are up. The tabulations are in. And I'm going to go with 1999's Drop Dead Gorgeous.
I was genuinely hoping you would.
And it edges out Miss Congeniality because of this. Miss Congeniality is very good. Sandra is amazing. It's an iconic, unclockable film. But Drop Dead Gorgeous, to me, encapsulates para mí, so much more. It has its arms around pageants, I think, better, and gives more space for way more iconic actresses and moments. You have Amy Adams being very slutty and amazing. You have obviously Kristen Dunst playing kind of like the straight person who like has the dreams to get out of town. You have Denise Richards being the bitch. You have Kirstie Alley being the bitch's mom. You have who am I missing? Brittany Murphy, who is like the giggly girl who's got the gay brother in New York. Allison Janney, who is like the sex pot older woman who always has a cigarette on her mouth.
Yes.
It's just...
Allison Janney, who makes every line that she says feel like improv.
Yeah. I mean, and so this is like, if you haven't seen, and it is a little bit hard to find, but it's out there.
Yeah. I think it was finally put on Hulu not too long ago. It's still
not
there?
Anymore. It's not there anymore. No longer on Hulu, unfortunately.
Well, thank God I'm currently in my childhood bedroom and I happen to have a copy right here.
Wow. Look at that poster. So good. It's a mockumentary film about a small town beauty pageant, the Sarah Rose Cosmetics Mount Rose American Teen Princess pageant. And Amber Atkins, played by Kristen Dunst, she really wants to win. She wants to be Diane Sawyer one day. She tap dances. It's just so silly and fun. But literally, it's kind of taking this. I mean, and again, this is 3 years post John Benet Ramsey, and like Crowned and Dangerous, we're getting a lot of things where it's like when queens were willing to do anything, even kill for the win, and just making this such a dark, funny, just like sharp critique of that entire system. And basically, Kirstie Alley and Denise Richards offing one by one the competition, making sure, doing whatever it takes to have Denise Richards win. The costumes in this are so ridiculous and so fun. When they're doing their like little, I want to be the Miss Sarah Rose American Teen Princess, because when you can take an ugly mountain and put a bunch of faces on it, that's America.
Faces of great Americans who did so much to make our country super great. Well, that makes me Rebecca Lehman, proud to be an American.
I'm Lisa Swenson, and I am proud to be an American because living in a country where Lady Liberty always keeps her flame burning bright. She always keeps her flame burning bright. Makes me proud to be an American. God.
Like the patriotism is so stupid, is so next level.
Denise Richards' entire talent is truly something to behold.
Yes.
You will never hear Can't Take My Eyes Off of You the same way.
It's Jesus. It's Jesus. And I just love, the idea that Amber Atkins, who is Kristen Dunst, she is the most talented. She is the one who deserves it all. She literally gets nothing in the film because she deserves it.
Yeah.
She only gets what she deserves through these crazy, random, awful accidents,
Yeah.
And it's just nonstop laughter. Nonstop, like, it's
and I'll say this, there are certainly problematic jokes in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
But once again, they when it hits, it really hits. I was reading actually Will Sasso's character, who should be fully removed from the film, but
Correct.
Will Sasso's character was added because early test screenings decided there were not enough male characters for the audience to identify with.
God.
But I do like the idea that they were like, well, I guess this is what we'll give you.
Yeah. They're like, okay, what do men like? What are some easy laughs? Like, the director is Michael Patrick Jan, who, this is the only movie he's ever made. He was a stand-up. People might know him from MTV's The State, which was like sketch comedy stuff. He's directed a bunch of Reno 911, written and directed some episodes of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Community, Children's Hospital. So that's the vibe in general. Just like really smart, but also very stupid comedy. And it's just like, God, get me a margarita and pop that bad boy on, and that's a good time Okay, that's a night of just iconic actresses just fucking slaying for an hour and a half. It's so good.
That is an excellent pick, and I'm very happy you picked it. So great work there.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you saw that you particularly loved?
Living Dolls is something that people should watch. It's a horror movie, but it's so interesting and so insane. Like I said, I Googled.
Has to be seen to be believed.
Yeah. I Googled afterwards just to be like, what happened? It's not the most great things. I didn't find a lot. And I will say, these are normal human beings who deserve privacy and all that. All that to say, Living Dolls is just such an there is, politics about money, politics about sex, politics about queer identity. It's not,
yeah.
There's so much there. There's so much there.
I would say, even though we both picked comedies, I would say that the things that are most worthwhile, and once again, Miss Bala, Miss Juneteenth, great films, totally worth your time. Beauty Jungle, I would even say, is worth your time, but I would say the things that are the best, the top tier, are the documentaries, like The Queen, The Queen's, Pageant to be a Miss Navajo. They are so great and eye-opening and informative. They all have beautiful narrative structures and really worth digging into and getting sort of this. If you have any interest in pageants at all, it's cool to see sort of every facet of them and how they're very the same but very different.
Yep.
Before we move into our fast forward, why don't we do our mixed reviews?
My 1-star review was 2007's Elvis and Annabelle.
And my 1-star review was 2004's Miss Castaway and the Island Girls.
I still cannot believe that will go down in fucking history, Gavin.
Yeah, I did it.
My 5-star review goes to 1999's Drop Dead Gorgeous.
And my 5-star review goes to 1975's Smile. They, in 1986, Marvin Hamlish and Howard Ashman tried to make a musical out of Smile. And,
yes!
And it's a very famous disaster. That's actually how I found out about the movie. I had not heard of it before the Howard Ashman documentary. So
that is crazy. I did not make the connection, but I did know that they tried to make a musical called Smile.
That's how he got Ariel from The Little Mermaid. She was a cast member, Jodie. Sure, Jodie. I'll remember.
Jodie, good old Jodie.
Good old Jodie. Let's get into our fast forward.
Well, Gavin, what is there to even say about the future of beauty pageants and film adaptations of beauty pageants?
As much as there's a part of society that really wants them to go away, I think that they will always exist in some way, shape, or form, whether they end up all becoming scholarship pageants or not. But I think they will kind of always be with us. I think it's more going to be about the evolution of what they look like and what they're about. Because the fact that we've already had so many pageants that have banned the swimsuit portion and made it less about, just oogling bodies, I think it's going to be interesting to see it change and evolve. And obviously, like, if the earth doesn't burn first, it'll be
correct.
Cool to, see what they become.
I think, obviously we're going towards at least in the film world, thinking about movies like Dumplin', thinking about movies like Little Miss You Can Do It, like trying to find, and especially now that drag is such a big part of the culture, it's taking these pageants and looking at them through like these different lenses. And, if we're going to be celebrating bodies, celebrating women, celebrating talent and achievements, like being able to celebrate everyone. There's a moment in Drop Dead Gorgeous where, she doesn't win at first. And she's very sad, but she's also just like, I'm just so excited that I got to compete, because there was a moment when she wasn't going to be able to. And I think for so many people, that's the key. For a lot of people in a lot of places, even having the access to compete is not a reality. So to be able to present yourself and your best self, whatever that is liberating. It is, a way to say, I am here, I'm proud, I'm confident, and to be celebrated for that, even if you don't win. Like, that's part of the victory. I think there's a part of Misbehavior where the woman who wins, Miss Granada, she's the first Black Miss World. She crosses paths with Keira Knightley, who is like in charge of the Women's Liberation Front, who want to see the pageant go away. And Miss Granada says,
there will be little girls watching tonight who'd see themselves differently because I won. Who might just start to believe that you don't have to be white to have a place in the world.
I'm glad. I really hope that the world opens up for them and for you. But making us compete with each other over the way we look, doesn't that make the world narrower for all of us in the end?
What's your name?
Sally.
Well, Sally, all I can say is I look forward to having your choices in life.
That's the eternal tension. And I think that tension will continue like for always, because for a lot of people who do not have access, like, it's like, what a privileged place to come from and be like, no, burn it all down. And it's like, okay, yeah, but we're not even at that place where you are yet. So there's no equity there. And so it's easier for you to say, burn it all down, white woman, because you already have it all.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why, like, I think I'm firmly pro pageants. I love the idea of, one, loving yourself enough to like work hard, show off your talents, like be that bitch. I love that. And I think, and Miss Navajo was one of the movies that really showed me like, and even for as horrifying as Living Dolls is, those kids, like, they love each other. Like, they're playing together. Like, and Miss Navajo, they're all like these girls who have pretty similar experiences. When they're shearing those sheep, they're shearing them together, and they're lifting up the community together. And so I don't want to be naive and say that, like, that's the reality of pageants. I'm sure that there are pageants out there that are fucking awful and exploitative. And, I'm sure that not every gal is like, sisters, yes. But like, I don't know. I think I want to believe a majority of the people who are participating in pageants like this really are just, wanting to better themselves, wanting to better their communities. Because like, it's also hard, like, it's weird sometimes to remember, oh, that person is a sophomore at like Ole Miss or whatever it is. Like, like, what the fuck was I doing? It takes a lot of work and a lot of money and sacrifice to do that. And it's that eternal struggle of like, God, if we were just like not a fucking patriarchy, women could just fucking be in pageants and we could judge and be like, you all look stunning tonight, but this bitch fucking slayed and we're giving her the crown. Like, and that, which is kind of like the whole idea, at least for me, when I think of like drag pageants, it's like they're doing themselves up, they're investing in the talent, they're able to recognize in one another's talent, and don't have to rely on like being nasty rigorous tricks. But
a little glass and some with setting powder never hurt.
oh, it hurts, son. It hurts. When I think of the future, like, there are documentaries about Miss Continental, but I need to, like, someone get me the script. Where's Bowen writing, like, the script of, the drag queen, like, Miss Continental, whatever it needs to fucking be. Like, cast Candace Kane, like, whoever it needs to be, like, get the dolls together, because we are living in this new pageant moment where pageants are about drag. Pageants now are all about being queer, and it's like so queer in the sense of like, trans women, biological women, and literally everyone in between, just going on stage and like stunting, showing off. Like we are inundated with drag culture now, which is all like it's based on pageants. Like it's literally just pageantry, which is so fun. And, you know, everyone does like playing dress up, no matter what it looks like. And so I think we are ripe for a great new pageant movie that is just like campy, modern, and can take the piss out like the best pageant movies do.
Absolutely. Beautifully stated, Louie.
Thank you.
I think you've won this question and answer round.
I knew I would.
Well, we'll see how your score matches up at the end.
Throw the scores out. The judges are drunk. It's rigged.
That's why none of the true beauties showed up tonight. I think that wraps up pageant films. I think they're fascinating. It's so funny because most of them aren't even necessarily truly about the competition, but it's always exciting to see who wins.
Yes.
And
who loses.
And who loses. And so I think there will always be part of us that's always like, we will always, in some way, shape, or form, want to rank. And
yes. Like, literally, when you think of, like, Miss America, Miss Universe, like, no one really cares about that stuff anymore. Like, they're so, like...
That's true. The last time people cared is when Steve Harvey read the wrong name.
I know. It's like, it's not, like, giving the ooh-ah sensation of watching Drag Race, of watching, you know... Even literally going on YouTube and watching the videos from Miss Continental, stuff like that. Like,
I mean, what is The Bachelor if not a pageant that ends in a wedding? You know,
truly, yeah.
But I digress. I think that wraps up pageants in a nice little bow for us. And so why don't I just tell you where you can find us? And if you want to write to us, you can tell us, you know, maybe you have a history with pageants. Maybe you have a story about pageants. We'd love to hear it. We'd love to talk about it.
Tell us all the titles you guys want, okay? What are the titles? The Junior Miss Pageants.
Absolutely. If you want to find us, you can find us on Twitter at The Mixed Reviews.
We're on Facebook. Just type in The Mixed Reviews.
You can email us at reviewsmixed@gmail.com.
We're also on Instagram at _mixed_reviews.
And if you want to listen to this episode or many, many other episodes in our back catalog, like I said, we're almost at 100. You can find us on any major podcast app. We're on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Audible, Amazon. And if you do listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please stop by, leave us a 5-star rating and a nice little review. And if you do, we'll read it on the show.
Yeah, why don't you just go over there, vote for us, fan favorite, crown it, fan demanded, and we appreciate y'all. See, Gavin, that's how you do a Southern accent.
Oh. That was Southern? Thank you, everybody, for listening to us. We will be back with another subject in a couple weeks.
I'll tell you what's going south, Gavin. This podcast is going south real quick, okay? With this attitude. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Bye.